should be live. So I will, while I'm waiting for things to kind of get rolling, I will quickly pull up my chat view so I can see that. I did a dumb move today and went ahead and rebooted my other machine that I keep here, my Mac, so that I can kind of monitor multiple things at once, and my laptop screen is kind of small. Hey Charles, welcome for joining. All right, so today I will be starting here shortly, but I'm going to be finishing up the phase inverter socket, and then I'm going to be trying to look to wrapping up the last little bit of connections all over the place, power connections, ground connections, and whatnot. And we may even in this hour finish the wiring. I will not be powering it up because I have to go through the process of double checking everything. So I may end up, if I'm done early enough, I might just start just scanning things over and talking to people and seeing if people can have any other questions in general. But so yeah, we should be ready to go here in just a moment. So welcome Charles. So the one of the other things that I'm going to mention is that I'm going to probably be doing a video in a little while because I've had a question. Somebody was commenting on one of the videos asking about the different types of resistors and the different types of capacitors. There's some really great technical videos in general that talk about global things about them, but not specific more to kind of amp use and why some of these resistors or capacitors are different types. I'm going to possibly go over and start covering that in a future video here as well. But so yeah, I've got a lot of great suggestions coming in from people on videos that people would like me to do, so I will be starting to do those as well. So let me see. All right, looks like I had a couple viewers already as well. All right, sounds good. I'm going to turn off my starting soon now, but you're going to start. All right, so today I'm going to go ahead and fix this because I was looking at something before we started. As I've mentioned on a previous video, a lot of this stuff I'm going to hook up myself offline because it's really hard to get in at the angle this chassis is looking at. But today we're going to start finishing up. I finished up yesterday the last of this this overdrive tube and the preamp tube, and we're going to try and finish a couple things. One, I need to create some way of running power to this node, and that's what I was going to start with, which comes from the two capacitors that are kind of over here, and then jump down to here. But then I realized I only have a single wire coming into there, so what I've done is I've stripped a little bit of that lead, and I will wrap the wire around there and then solder it and shrink wrap it so that it joins the two wires in there, and then we'll jumper this guy over and down over to the bottom end of this one. So without further ado, I will begin doing that. So let's see. Actually, I'm going to try and adjust this camera just a little bit so we have a little bit more in screen about what I'm working on here. Let me see, about right there. And then let's just check focus doesn't look too whacked. There we go. All right, so I apologize. Some of these other wires are needing to be connected later, but they're in a way a little now. So first thing I did, I've already run a wire, if you can see it kind of wiggling right here. I've run it under the board over to this connection point. I don't know how visible that is. Oh, those purple wires. I'm trying to move them out of the way for a minute. So right here, I've got the wire, and I'm going to connect this in and solder it up. So I also want to quickly pull chat up so I can see people chatting with me because I just hid that. So I normally have a second monitor, another monitor up where I can see my chat. I just rebooted that machine to do an update, and I thought it would be a 5-minute update, and it's been going for an hour, so I kind of shot myself in the foot there. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so I will go ahead and get... Now, I always apologize ahead of time. To save my lungs, I have a fan going here to pull the vapors away. That's a Heiko fan, so that I don't suck up these fumes and get all kinds of lung problems. I have asthma and a bunch of other stuff, so it just makes it even worse. So it will have a little bit of hum going on, so please forgive me for that. So, all right, first up, clean soldering tip. And, oh, I ran the wire, but I haven't hooked in, so I got to first connect it in here. And there we are. And you'll see me talking about this a lot. One of the most important things that you want to get is a physical connection. So if you look, I just bent that around, pinched it tight against the metal. And the solder works more like a glue than a conductor, right? So it does conduct, obviously, but you want it to behave more like a glue. So to just hold that joint permanently in place so it won't go anywhere, but it also gives you the second benefit of being a conductor. But the more important part is you make a physical connection with those wires so that it would work without solder, and then the solder to make sure that it can't wiggle loose over time. So I'm now going to solder this guy in. And there we go. Good to go. I will come back in a second after that cools and snip excess leads, but we now have that here. Now I'm going to come and I'm trying to figure the best place to do this is maybe like that. All right, so I want to have about right here, and I'm going to give myself quite a bit of lead because I'm going to be doing a kind of wraparound splice that will just spiral around quite a bit around that little bit of bare lead that I have there. So I want myself a lot of spare wire here. All right, so there we go. And then I will kind of give you guys a close-up of what I meant by that when I'm done, so you can see why I'm trying to go for a very strong physical connection. All right, see that. Let's see. It is right here. And I've wrapped that around several times, and I will now solder it. And then I'm going to slide a bit of shrink wrap over this whole joint, and then melt that shrink tube over it so that it, keeps it from conducting anywhere. Because this is going to be high voltage. There we go. Got that nice and soldered. And since that is done, I will quickly jump over here. By the way, anyone that is joined along, please do ask any questions you may have. Feel free to let me know if there's a specific thing that you're curious about, or if there is an area that I'm maybe skimming over too fast, not giving enough detail. I even had something on my last video that I was very welcome and happy. They just asked a question about a different build they're working on, and I was able to hopefully direct them a little bit with that. All right, so we'll kind of remove this right here. A lot of this build process for me, a lot of the builds I've done have been very straightforward and easy compared to this guy, but they weren't easy the first time I did them. So realize that every build you do will get you a little bit more skill in doing better at these builds. So I see myself having slightly better looking leads, arrangement on lines, but still looks ugly compared to some of the stuff I see people do online on Facebook, or I see them on some of the forums I'm on. It's pretty amazing the kind of detail these guys get to make things look amazing. Oh, one other thing I did offline today was, while I have to run from these guys here a power line over to the side, so I've got that one run and I soldered it in here, but I haven't connected it back to this side yet, and we'll finish that up today as well. But I just, me running wires on the board isn't that exciting for the live stream, so I do a couple of those little things here and there sometimes to short circuit the process so you're not staring at me fighting a very boring thing. So alright, so now I'm going to get some shrink tube on that guy. Let's go for a nice red color that matches what it is, if I have some. So how's everybody's Saturday going? Oh, you got some popcorn? Is that where you want the consent stand for? Alright, I think that should be thick enough. It looks like it. Yeah, you got to get the popcorn and watch me burn my fingers or something, right? If you were on live stream a couple back, you did see me do that. Actually, I used this to get my I torched this guy to melt my shrink tube. I happened to be talking about it on the live stream, and then pointed it at my hand while I was doing it, and forgot that when you let go of the button, it still runs for about 5 seconds afterwards. I don't know why that one does that, but everybody got to watch me cook myself live. You can go back and watch them all if you want to see the moment again, because it's buried in infamy. Alright, so now I have that. We will go ahead and shrink tube that, or shrink, oh wait, let's see, can I keep, yeah, that's in focus here. Alright. There we go. And now what I can do is run this, and this will be a little fun. I should have kept this undone because I forgot I have one more connection I have to do under. But I might be able to get that guy without doing it. We'll see. Cut this off about here. So I really do also welcome any comments and suggestions of what kinds of content people are looking for, because I'm having a lot of fun creating these videos, but I'm also constantly trying to think ways to keep them. Oh, ice cream, nice, Charles. Got to get that ice cream. I've got to get my figure out what kind of content I do. Building amps is a lot of fun, but it's also expensive. It costs me probably close to $1,000 per amp I build. And then they're just starting to stack up. I may try and sell some at some point, but the bigger point is I have a blast doing this, and I'm hoping that as I learn, people can learn. But I also want, if there's some simpler videos that I can do that will just take some of my time but not as much money, to give you guys some things that will make sense. So please feel free to suggest in the comments or here on the live stream things that you'd like to see me doing. So, all right. Let's see. Whew. I about threw my pliers across the room. This is going to be the tricky part. See if I can get this in here. It's underneath a big fat wire. I'm going to have to kind of lay across the screen for a minute. I apologize. Oh, yeah. Oh, I had it in. I said, oh, yeah, I had it in, and then I popped it back out trying to get down to it. Come on. Go in your hole. It's your home. One of the discussions we had on a live stream on Thursday night is how my big fat fingers getting inside of these little tight spaces is a nightmare. And one of the things I try and remember to do is ahead of time connect stuff like this up in a way that doesn't require me to be battling with it later like this. But this is obviously one that I missed. So now the funnest part is going to be getting my soldering iron in at an angle in there to where it will not melt everything I touch in the area. So we're going to try and do that now. And this is a little off screen for everybody also, but it's just I have to finish this little bit and then we'll get back to stuff you can see on screen. I'm going to have to probably come in at a really weird angle. At least I'm totally blind here and can't see what I'm doing. Looks like I'm getting it though. Alright, so what I'll have to do there in a little bit is go back in and see if I can wiggle to make it and make sure it doesn't want to move. Alright, so what I can start doing now is figuring out how to connect this power, the 12 volt line that's coming under here, connect that up to these guys. So, of course this heater wire is in my way right now, but, alright. Oh, Angela says she can help me with that sometimes. So those of you that may have seen some of my older videos may realize Angela was the person that built the Champ with me back in the day. That's my wife. She's awesome helping me out with that stuff. But I would welcome you helping me. All right, so let's see. One of the things I just got was my other machine back up again, so I can move chat there a little bit more easily. So what we're going to do next, and I'll just kind of use my mouse to kind of come to the area. Right around here, we're going to I have to connect to one lead of this guy, this middle lead from the 820 ohm resistor, into pins 8 and 3, and it will just jump between those two. I also have to connect these two as well. So we're going to start kind of connecting those. Oh, no, sorry. I just got confused. We were actually talking about connecting the blue and the... I have blue and purple, and this one's blue and brown. So they come down, these two down the middle, and then they connect down to these wires here. So one goes to the and I've got to double check just to make sure before I mess this up. I have to kind of start from the top. I'll just choose one color. So the one that has the 22 meg they have is the brown one, and the brown one connects to the preamp boost, and my preamp boost is the one that connects to pin 2. I'm trying to remember which one I did which way. Let me think. Actually, I can look at that picture, I think. So brown, 20 meg, which is my purple in this case, connects to the preamp boost, which will be the middle pin right here. Okay, so I'm going to connect my purple lead to the middle pin of this guy back here. Oh, I'm going to have to raise my camera a little bit. I'm to the point where you guys cannot see my fingers when I've been talking about all this. Right back in here. So right here, I'm going to run this purple wire to there. So I've got to first kind of uncouple these guys a little bit. I pre-wound them just so, even though they're going to be running DC, it just kind of made them nice and neat and pulled them together so that they're also visible to people that might be working on the amp later, that they're kind of the same thing, so that they're kind of paired in a way that people get. So purple has to come over and connect here. Oh, help with your ice cream. Yeah, that's... Oh, are you trying to sneak some ice cream without letting me have some? Is that what's going on? Naughty, naughty. Alright, so... I can... Now, one of the things I've found that it makes things a little easier is once you wound this stuff, if you're going to be soldering it, you need to kind of get those kinks out. So I tend to get my flat blade of my... this and kind of squeeze it to get as straight as I can. So this doesn't need to be too long, so I can cut it back a little bit, but the blue one is going to jumper across the other side. I will give that a little bit more length. And then we will... All this ice cream, and I haven't, making me jealous. Alright. I'm getting pretty excited. This build is getting really close. I'm hoping that maybe within less than a week's time I will have it done. Working a full-time job and not being able to work on amps full-time, it kind of sucks, you know? But anyway. There we go. Alright, let me solder that. Maybe both of what? Both ice cream? Both of us can have ice cream? Or I can work both a full-time job and work on amps. I don't know. I'm missing the context, I think. Alright, so what that is doing is connecting 12 volts. I'll let that kind of cure and I'll explain what I've done there. So the I just connected this guy in. So what that does is connects 12 volts into a switch here that is kind of coupled with a capacitor here that connects down. If you close the switch one way, then it connects these two. That then jumpers 12 volts through the foot switch down and in, and it will close the circuit. But also, the way this circuit is built out, because the inside of it, this line 1 jumpers over to the other side, and line 1 has another connection that allows you to also use the foot switch to close that same thing. All that's doing is closing 12 volts, which hits the relay contacts, which forces the relay to close the other ends. So. And we're going to do the same thing now with the blue on the other side. So the blue, I'm going to kind of get this guy down. The blue goes in almost the opposite direction over on this side. So I'm trying to think of how I can easily get that there. I might have to unwind this a little bit more to get that there. One of the other things I've been debating, I've had a daughter telling me that Twitch is also a really good streaming service. A lot of people are into Twitch streaming, so I might look into trying to find a way to do that. But I think the tricky part is I still want to stream at YouTube at the same time. And Twitch streaming is, you have to do some tricks to get that to work. So I might have to research it, but I still want to keep doing the YouTube because YouTube has been where my bigger audience is obviously already. But so let me know if you guys think that you'd be interested in watching me doing Twitch stream. Alright, so this guy will come in, and where does that jump in? That's in the middle as well. So, oh, did I do a bonehead and solder that side? I think I did, so I'll have to fight that battle. Alright, but that being said, I just need to straighten this a little bit more. Oh, you're going to be able to help me and get ice cream. I got you. Let's see how you are. Alright. Well, then you better come downstairs and start helping right now. No, I'm just kidding. Alright. Trying to get these the wrinkles out of the part where I wanted to be straight. Alright. Oh, I don't want to spill my coffee. Alright, so... back here. There's another thing that can be a pain in the butt is stripping wire that's got these kinks in it. Alright, let me... Now, the fun part of this is going to be I have to kind of carefully try and push the wire in while I solder it because I already soldered this hole. Let's see if I can get it through. It may not be super easy to do. Alright. I'm also going to be taking a second to get my live stream stuff up on my other computer that I have up now. Alright. How about chat? After she's done with her ice cream. I see. You guys quit talking about ice cream. You're making me hungry. Alright, so... Now... you know, another thing I could do here is just use the solder sucker to kind of clean away the solder I accidentally put on. We'll see if this is too hard this way, then I will do the solder sucker technique instead. But oh, geez, that is going to be hard because I have to get the right angle with the soldering iron. You know what? I'm going to use the sucker. Because I'm just really afraid if I'm trying to futz around with that, I'm going to melt something. So where's my solder sucker? Well, this thing sucks. There it is. Get it? This thing sucks. Got a chunk of solder stuck in there. Look at this. I might have to kind of unscrew it. So the solder sucker, after it gets done, it has these little bits of the solder that's pulled out that will quite often just get stuck. Oh, there we go. Look at how much like that pulls out quite often. I don't know if that's visible. Big, huge chunk of solder. Anyway. And I think it looks bigger than it really is because it has a lot of air inside of it after it's been sucked out. But alright, so let me move this out of the way for a minute. Heat the joint. I said joint. It is Washington State after all. It's completely legal, right? I'm not a smoker though. I'm allergic to it. I made me sick when I tried it. Some of y'all might be going, what made you sick? But it does. It makes me puke. Sucks. Oh, it just went in perfectly because I'm shaking a little bit from too much coffee this morning. I popped it right back out again. There we go. And now I can resolder, and then I can snip away any of the junk left over. And I might have to turn that around the direction to get a good amount of the snipping I need to do, but it's alright. All I'm going to do is finish it for now. There we go. So, a dad joke. Yeah, I'm full of dad jokes, aren't I? I am a dad after all. Alright. So now let's kind of clean this up a little. I can remove this excess lead. Remove that excess lead. Alright. What's next? Now we've got the power to those guys. These switches are done, and the foot switch is done. That's very cool. So as I started talking about earlier, let's go ahead now and connect to the phase inverter. So for the phase inverter, I need to connect. I think the good one to do might be this middle one that I mentioned first, which is going to be jumpering the grounds between pins. Let me refocus this in the center so you guys can see what I'm talking about, which will be this guy. And things that I know Angie had mentioned and someone on the chat had mentioned is this is not super easy to see. So I'm going to zoom as much as I can, but the problem is that it's really low res, so it doesn't look that great to you guys probably. But so I'm going to be connecting this jumper between these two off of that one ground that comes off of the middle of the 820k resistors right here. 820 mix. Actually, it's funny because it's such a small window. I'm looking at it, even though it looks blurry as crap to me, it actually looks pretty good on the little window in there. So maybe I should be doing this a little bit more. But all right, so that's this lead right here, coming off the center of these two, and then I will bring it over and connect it to the right pins here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 8. Oh, they're actually bent. I remember in the Fender also they did the same kind of a thing, and they just bent the two together. So I should be able to. I'm going to solder suck out the other side so that I can get the lead through more easily, and then go from there. But there, good enough. All right, I have a clear opening. So, I'm gonna run this guy. I'm trying to think. I probably want to come at this angle. Yeah, let's go ahead and strip quite a bit away because we're going to jump between the two. Alrighty. I wish YouTube didn't like shut down me playing music, because a lot of times I like to work listening to some of my favorite music, but if I do that, then YouTube will quite often ban the songs, or if I'm not getting monetized right now because of YouTube changed their rule, my channel is deemed as too small for monetization, but if I was monetized, they would basically strip the monetization from me. So that's kind of a bummer, because it's a lot of fun jamming to the tunes. Alright, let's see. Okay, I can see pretty well in there now. We're going to go ahead and go in and suck. Alright. So I was watching an interesting EEV blog video this week, and in it, Dave Jones was repairing a pair of KRK speakers, powered monitors that had a weird failure. That was an interesting video because they were almost touched the I think I got that though. They were failing because they put a black goop on them that turns out that it as it ages goes conductive. The black goop was for a smart reason, which was to keep things from moving, so that their longevity of the thing is kind of guaranteed. All right, perfect. But in this case, it ruined the longevity because it started becoming conductive. So that's one of the things that I'm actually going to be doing here is I'll be putting some silicone under a lot of these caps that are kind of hanging free, because you don't want them hanging free. They'll vibrate over time and break loose. That silicone that I have is called Silicone 2. It's by GE. It is very high quality silicone, but it also has no acids in it, so it can't etch things, break things loose, or cause problems well. So and silicone is non-conductive itself. So it's just the acid curing compound, and some of them will do damage to the circuit. So, all right, that's done. Next, we need to run. There's those two green leads. I might want to zoom this out just a teeny bit so we can see. Oops, not zoom in. So we can kind of bring this down and see. So there's the two green leads now that come in from one from this left side, and I've got the blue in my case, but they're green on this screen. And they are going to go to, the first one goes to pin, what it is showing as would be pin 7, is that what that is? I think it's pin 7. She is over this side. Let me think for a minute. It's pin. It's the pin just to the side of it, which would be this one right here. All right, is that? Yeah, this one right here. So go ahead and do that. And this one looks like I just barely have the right kind of distance out of this guy. So, all right. Of course, this one also needs to be solder set. What I did with a lot of this when I was stripping it out is I didn't take the time to clean these out. I just heated them enough to pull the solder out. But now I've got to go back and do the cleanup so I can get the leads in it. Oh, look, there's some of that lead solder stuff. Got a lot that time, but there's apparently a decent amount more still. Alright, I've got enough of a hole. Actually, while I'm here, oh, that one looks good. I'll get any of these that I'm going to need to connect before we get to them so I don't have to fight that battle. My phone is going nuts, so I should probably remember to put it on silent. It's just probably email and whatnot coming in, but... Alright, that one's clean. That one's clean enough to use. Okay, cool. We're good now for that socket. Alright, so we'll go back to connecting this guy up. So this is the phase inverter. Can anybody tell me what the phase inverter for? Question time. Phase inverter's job is to take the signal and convert it into two sides. Oops, that just popped right back out. But of inverted signals. Now, one of the things there was an interesting discussion that I had on Amp Garage recently was there's a lot of confusion, and even I find myself confusing these just because I hear them used so wrong all the time, is phase versus inverted. And it's funny because their phase quite often is used kind of incorrectly in a lot of these cases, including in the phase inversion idea here, because phase has to do with a shifting of the time of the signal, and inverted means that it's just reversed, sent the other direction. You know, it's when it's up, it should be down, and vice versa. Technically, if you phase out 180 degrees, then you took something that happened now and shifted it so that it is now inverted as well. But the difference there would also mean it would be delayed as well. And in this case, the phase inverter doesn't delay the signal; it just inverts it. So that's kind of one of those funny misnomers. All right, so now we have those done. Try to arrange these a little bit so they're not so goofy looking. That's a little neat looking. That's one of those things I'll probably try and spend a little time doing later too, is just kind of arranging those a little bit. All right, so next I need this one. This is the other one that will be connecting to the other side, which in this case is going to be this pin here. All right, so this one. Alright, let's go ahead and snip and then strip. Not like that. Alright. Oops, as I throw something around. My base piece where I docked this guy in kind of stuck to it that time, and I about threw it across the room. My meat hooks. Alright. I'm trying to decide if I think that soldered well. It looks like it did. It just kind of did some weird thing while it did it. But, alright. And one of the things you have to kind of be careful of with these is after you solder them and let them kind of cure or harden, any extra leads you want that are kind of leaning around, you want to take them out, because if not, later, if things kind of are starting to go a little weird, they can become a point that will create an arc point, or an electrical arc can jump between short distances. So you want them as physically separated as possible. Forget that, I'll get later. Alright. Next, and what I'm going to do with this guy is let me clean that up like I did with the other two. I will now kind of square that away. And I will come down to about, I don't know, here. Like that. I'm just trying those fairly linear looking. Next up, there is this guy, which is, what is that one? Let's look. This is, oh, this is the negative feedback. Right, that's going to connect to the speaker jack, so I don't need it down yet. We'll leave that aside for a minute. What I do need to do is get the so there's a blue and a kind of red come off of either side of these ones, which are these two purple ones, and they come down and connect as well to the grid inputs. I think they're there, if I'm looking right. Or maybe those are the outputs. No, those are the outputs, sorry. Those are the anodes. So the blue one, which is the right one, goes to this far side. So since I'm mirroring everything the way I did it there, we'll come over here, and this one here will come to the one over here. So I'll just kind of position them so I can see them a little bit more clearly. And I'm going to put this on silent mode so I don't keep getting these noises coming in. It's nice music, but not that nice. Alright, so that one goes pretty well, so I'll just... It looks like I've kind of lucked out and had most of these perfectly aligned. On my one, I think it was my last build, the Tweedledee Deluxe, I ended up having to remove a wire and redo the whole wire because I didn't quite have enough length. I was so annoyed. I was like, oh, come on. You're killing me. You're killing me. Alright. Alrighty. Get that guy soldered in. Now, one of the things that I just remembered while I'm doing this, one thing that is a very easy fix on an amp build, if you're ever building an amp that uses negative feedback, and you put the amp together and you start getting this god-awful squall-ish squeal like, that is a sign these phase inverters, the outputs of those, coming into the inputs of the output transformer, the phase. And that squealing is positive feedback happening. So you need to just swap either the leads of the power transformer, if that's easy, or swap the leads on the phase inverter that we just did, that I'm doing right now, those ones that are the output, basically. You just swap the phase so that they're now in phase, or corrected in the phase, so that they are no longer causing this horrid squeal. Alright, so cut this guy about here. Let me gotta check that. About there. Strippers. Oh, that's the fun part about working on amps. I always have strippers hanging around with me. Wait, what? Who said that? Alright. Okay, now the last one. Alright. So, anybody else that's on the stream have any other exciting hobbies besides building amps? One of the other ones that Angie and I do a lot is rock climbing. And I may eventually start doing some videos on that, but I'll probably just create a separate channel because it's so unrelated to this one. Videos of us doing some rock climbing. Alright. Oh. Okay. So as I said, this is negative feedback. That's going to connect to speaker leads, and I think I might have to fix these speaker leads anyway. I haven't looked at them closely yet, but they were kind of done in a weird way. Yeah, I don't know, Charles. That's one of those ones that I call them dad jokes because they're corny. But Angie says, I don't think dads tell their kids stripper jokes. And I said, well, they'll get it someday. Now, my kids are all, one's 18 and the other's 20, so I do these kind of jokes now, and they like them. Alright. I've got the phase inverter completed. Look at that. I'm trying to think what else. One of the other things I need to look at and finish is I've got some grounds that are not done. And I need to tie those grounds to something. So let's do a quick check of our grounds. I'm looking for any loose black wire, and there was a couple that I finished over here. Let me bring this back over here. In this area right here, I think I've got all the grounds that need to connect in done. So what I just need to do with that is solder it. So I'm going to do that really quickly. So I will solder this guy in. Alright, that's soldered. And more of a man joke. Yeah, man joke, Phil joke. Yep, absolutely. Okay. Oh, and I can kind of, let me go back also since we're doing, ooh, that's super zoom in. So what I'm doing now is trying to kind of finish up this ground, and then I need to come back, and I've got a bunch of the grounds I have tied in that go like here and here. Although actually these, that's going to be a separate, I might have to do that as a kind of a separate video. Right now they're all grounded the normal way that these are grounded, which is just straight to ground. But in this amp, I need to go back and refix this to have two of the grounds of the tubes come through the slide switch so I can have a 50 or 100 watt output. I'm going to do it on a little small switch like this, but it'll still run the current because it's just the ground. It's a couple of, 20, 30 volts that are coming to ground. But let me come back over here now. And this is where I'm going to go next for my grounds, which are, I've got a ground from this, I think it's from the bias board. I've got the ground from this first filter capacitor, this ground from the second set of filter capacitors. So I've got to kind of look on this layout where all of them go and make sure I do them in the right places. So we're going to quickly just kind of grab those. Let me look. So the ground of the main filter capacitor goes over to ground, what they call ground 4, which is also the ground of the bias circuit. And that is this ground. So this ground and this ground. Oh, I'm still not in shot here. Let me adjust a little bit. And I can even zoom in, I think, a little. The angle's a bit weird, but adjust the focus. Alright, so I'm basically going to be tying the ground of this guy and the ground of the bias circuit, which is kind of up in here together down. And I'm just supposed to use a ground over here, and I'm trying to think, I could use this ground, but I have to double check because the center, the center, so these two grounds as well, one of them is the center tap of the power transformer, and the orange one I believe is like a Faraday cage around the amp itself. So I need to ground those to something in this area. And I'm trying to figure out what I should do. There is a transformer tap here that's set up, and it's got solder actually to the chassis as well. So in theory, I could solder to this wire, and I have, it's not just the transformer tap. Now, one of the things I've been told repeatedly, and I tend to agree with because it makes sense to me, is don't ground, or especially don't earth wire to the transformer bolt. because the transformer bolt is the transformer is pretty much the heaviest thing in the amp, and it will shake and vibrate over the years, and these screws can come loose and remove your ground and your earth connection, which is extremely dangerous. So, but this, someone has also not only bolted it down, but they've soldered it to the chassis as well, and that has a good solid connection. So I think I'm gonna use this one, but it's also not for my earth, it's for my power transformer, center tap, and my grounds for these other things that I mentioned. So we're gonna go ahead and ground those. Now the other thing that I will be grounding, and I'm going to look at, I think it goes to a different location, is this the ground. This says that goes to ground 2, which is the ground of these guys. And ground 2 is up here near the power tubes. I have not set that ground yet, and I haven't decided for sure where I will. There is a soldered connection on the chassis kind of over here. You can't see it because the wire's in the way. And I need to decouple it from the actual tube, because the tube will be, I think, one of them that I will want to run the ground over instead to my, well, one of them is. I gotta look at which one. Anyway, I'll figure that in a second. Let's finish what I was starting with. I'm going to want to ground these guys, all of these guys, to this. So we will. It's just a lot of wires, so it's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt, but we'll get there. And what I think I will do is, there's a long lead. I will wrap these guys down at the base of it as best I can, and then solder them to it, but I also might put like a, well, I guess it's a ground. We don't need to shrink wrap a ground, because the ground's job is grounding, and it's one of the things you generally are just trying to cover with a shrink wrap is things you don't want grounding. So I think we don't need to necessarily do that. I will cut the lead that I don't need, though, eventually. But let's see. Let's cut it right about here. I am going to want to give a large amount of bare wire on these so that I can wrap them around really well sometimes. So similar to what I did on the other thing that we did a minute ago. So all right. It looks like I've got about 6 people on today. Welcome, the few that have come along. Please say hi in chat if you'd like. I am actually getting pretty close on this, guys. Trying to finish up some of my grounds. Once the grounds are tied in, I will, effectively I can't power this up live today, because I have to spend usually it's almost an hour or more going through and ensuring that I have a good quality double check of every connection on the amp. So that will be kind of done offline, because it's boring. I just go through and it's very important though, and I do this on all of my builds. I print off the layout, and on the layout printout I go through and I get a highlighter and I just highlight and mark off any of the parts that I have completed successfully, so that I know for surety that that component is in place and is right and is not missing or jumpered to the wrong place. And while doing that, I also will get a continuity mode tester and test all of those places as well. And I'm sorry that what I'm working on is behind this transfer, but I can kind of talk while I'm doing it so you guys get a little sense of something that's what's going on. But I have I've had a lot of luck with that, and so far in my builds there's only been a couple of them, crossing my fingers, that have had major problems with the build, and they were early on because I wasn't doing it as detailed of a troubleshooting process to make sure, double checking process to make sure that I was totally confident that I had put everything in its right place, if you will. I'm just trying now to pinch all these leads together so that I can feel good they are going to get a good ground connection, and then I will solder that. And that's one more part of the grounding done. Oh, and there is one other thing I still need to do here. I can see them as well, these big long loose leads. Is that I need to connect the output of the phase inverter into the power tubes. All right, I think I've gotten, yeah, in fact I got enough so much solder that I dropped the ball off onto the ground. So that means that we flowed in well, we've got good connections to ground, and we are good. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just snip the part of this off at the end that I don't need anymore. Okay, so those are well grounded now. I will realign this down a little bit out of the way. So, this ground, as I said, I have to kind of figure out how I'm going to be doing the power tubes for the switch, so we'll wait on that for a minute. But these two leads here, let's come back over here. I need to connect these two leads, these are the output of my phase inverter, over to basically where these two sides come in. Since I don't yet know phase of these sides, I will effectively leave the leads, I'm trying to think, I will leave the lead of this guy long enough. Well, let's think. So what I kind of need to figure out is, well, I guess since those are at the top, I could probably just desolder them and swap them, as long as I give them a little bit of room. So effectively you come in, and when this red one comes in, I need to desolder it, pull it out of the way, and then I'm going to put one of these leads into that. That's the input. There you go. And I kind of, I need a little solder. I'm going to get some solder and go through and kind of quickly also try and solder suck this. This is one that I worked on a couple weeks back, and I didn't think about it at the time because I didn't have the board in yet, but I was replacing the screen and the, both the screen and the resistor because they were kind of out of whack a bit, if you will. But, alright, so let's get this guy here and give ourselves a little bit of room. Where'd I put my, there, snips. So another thing I've done for any of you guys that are curious about what kind of gear I have and use, I've set up kind of an Amazon affiliates thing. If you are interested in getting some of the stuff I've got and want to also support the channel, you can buy. I put it in the comments, or I mean the links description section. So like, you know, my Heiko pliers I'm using, the Heiko snips you've seen me using, my Heiko soldering iron. I really like Heiko. I've had great success with it. They don't pay me, by the way. I have no ad revenues of any kind from that. It's just what I have used because I'd read elsewhere. You know, EEV blog, for example, is one of the first places I started getting electrical information, and they highly suggest it, so I went that route. But any Weller makes great soldering irons as well, but I just kind of recommend the Heiko because of my success with it. And the unit I'm using is one of the more decent, robust units. It costs about $100, but I think it's worth it. My any of the other stuff that I'm using is there now. Just trying to get this solder melted enough I can push this in. This is a bit of a tight spot. I'm going to just touch the hot soldering iron. Come on. I've got so much like wire going on in this junction, it does not seem to want to melt and let me push the lead through. Give myself a little bit of excess solder blob on this so that I've got oh, that just started going through, but now I don't touch it because it's too close. There we go. Now we have a good connection. And now we'll just add a little bit more solder so we flow it in there and get it in nice and tight. I can't see. I'm blinding myself. Pulling my light. There we go. I just saw that blob go right down inside and sink in. It's a good sign. So that guy now we can kind of tuck down. Oh, of course I went over the heater wires. Oh. Time to pull it back out and put it under the heater wires. Nice job. Can't get... Let's try that again. We will be under the heater wires now. Oh yeah, that worked. It was a little easier that time too because I think I cleared, when I pulled that old lead off, I think some of the wires kind of broke free inside of it, and I think I just pushed a little bit of them out so that they're... There we go. All right. And now I can, and I've got this a little bit sloppy on purpose, like I said, because I may need to swap these guys around. So if not, I'll come back and try and clean them up and make them a little tighter. This one comes over and under here to, oh, this is ugly. So what I'm going to try and do is pull this one out. This one comes all the way over to here. So I think I'm going to pull it through. And then I've got to decide, or first get it out, and then I've got to decide how I want to run this other guy through here. There you go. So let's get this run through. I'm not seeing any other comments. Hopefully I haven't put everybody to sleep. If you have comments or questions, please do fire away. So this is kind of the one last few steps. Oh, the one other thing I need to look at, I remember now, this here, what is that? That was one of the one. I don't have the wire connected to that yet. That comes off of, I get my mouse up there. I just remembered that. So this, I have nothing soldered in here now. That's because that comes off of the last jumper of the 22K resistor here. That also, oh, it goes from the front side of it over here. So I have to run a lead. I'm now looking at it. I'm going to have to run a lead from here over to here. So I've got to get that one done as well. So we'll do that in a second once I finish this. But let's first, oh, I don't like how that's going over the top of things. Let's put that down. This is a rat's nest down in this end here. Sorry. Here. Alright, we're just about done with my hour of work here as well. I'll be stopping probably in a minute here, but I do want to kind of finish up. I'm just trying to think of any other little things that are left and get them before I forget. I can't see. I might have to flow some extra solder on this joint too to just be able to make it. It's like it's got some braided wire in it that the Fender stuff uses, and I like to use solid core because braided wire always on me kind of splits apart and goes all weird ways. I can't control it, but at least solid core I can. There we go. I can see it actually flowing. There we go. Got it through, good and tight. And now I'll go put just a little bit more solder on the top. All right. One of the ways you'll always know if your solder is working is if you see it do a thing called wetting, and it will ball up until it gets hot enough, and then it will just flow in. And once it just flows in, you know you've hit it right. All right. So let me look and see, where am I now? The one other thing I just mentioned is I run a lead from here to basically here. So I'm gonna get me some red line for that. Measure about what I want. All right. Give myself a little extra purpose because I tend to I've learned that if I over measure and cut off a little bit, it's not a big deal. If I under measure, then I'm gonna be annoyed with myself for being short. So, all right. I think my stripping things here are starting to worn out a little bit. So now the fun of me trying to get this through, and I've already resoldered this guy before, but we'll see if we can get it. All right, it's through, and now I'm going to do so what I usually do with these, I've told you before, solid connection, is that I will, bend them in some way afterwards, as tight as I can, and then reflow it a bit more so that it stays. And then I will also add just a touch more solder. It's a good, freshly, recently soldered connection that I did, but I want to make sure that what I've just added hasn't created a dry solder joint or anything like that. And I see it wetting, and there it goes. All right, so because it sank and moved, that means that it's done. So now I'm going to kind of tuck it down along the side and bring it down over under there. So let me do that next. Actually, I don't know what I want. Let's see. There we go. That will then come up in here. So I will step a little about here, strip back a little, and with this kind of stuff I've got to be careful not to give it so that when I put it in the hole it won't end up accidentally touching the chassis. So oh, trying to get it to be kind of tight and steady. It's fighting me a little bit. There we go. I think that did it. All right. Charles, some of the pre-tinned braid isn't bad to work with, but I like solid. Yeah, I have found, like, for example, when it comes to the transformers, Charles, those tend to work really well. They're pre-tinned, yes, braided, but they just kind of work really well because they're straight and linear and pre-tinned. But the stuff that's not pre-tinned, I always just lose that battle. All right, there we go. Okay. There's another one down here. What does that guy go to? Let's see. Oh, that's the bias. So the bias connects into here. And I'm going to have to run a lead from here to here for the bias. So, again, let's pull. This time for bias, I will use I'll use purple, I guess, bias. So I'm going to have to connect from this other lead over here. Oh, it's off screen. I'm just trying to wrap up a lot of these little details. There's one connection here that comes off of the bias potentiometer, and I will bring it over and drop it in right here. So from there to there. So I'm going to do that one really quickly. Sorry, Phenom, I did email to you this morning when I replied to one of your emails from last night I hadn't seen until last night. I apologize you didn't get a chance to see and follow along. But I did send you an email. Phenom and I send a lot of emails back and forth chatting about stuff. Feel free, by the way, you can fire an email to me if you guys want to chat to pdavis@frenchyfilms.com. or creators@frenchyfilms.com is another email address that comes through to us. But I'm more than happy to chat that way as well if you guys want to discuss general questions or whatnot. But yeah, I apologize. I definitely thought that had I mentioned on the last live stream that I was likely going to stream today, but I didn't take the time to plan it ahead of time. I only announced it an hour or so before, and which means that, you know, a lot of people that might want to attend are going to miss out a little bit, which I apologize for. But I need to get myself a little bit more on a very specific, if I'm going to live stream all this stuff, I need to put a very specific skill out there and just stick to that. I think that'll help reduce the confusion and stuff. So my apologies for that. I'd hoped that you'd see the email I sent you this morning, but I do apologize that you missed it. Alright. I keep finding these little things. There's all these little things that I've always wanted to chase down. I'm getting to the point now where I have to chase them all down. So, and I am doing that. Alright. Oh, gotta clean my ticket's getting ugly. Oh, I'm having a time getting this. I've got it too hot, probably. I'm trying to just close off the hole. There we go. Got it. Sometimes if you get the metal a little too hot, it will fight you in getting it to flow well. So I just had to fight that a little bit. But all right, let's try and feed this through. For any of you guys this is your first time watching, I welcome feedback. If there's some stuff that you would prefer I do differently, I'm totally open to finding out feedback. If there's something that's a little not going as well as you'd like, or boring, or I don't know, or whatever, please let me know. I'd be happy to try and change the format a little bit if we need to make it work better. I'm just trying to get the... Oh, come on, you sucker. Trying to get this wire up. There we go. Battle of the bias voltage. Alright, so that needs to come back there. Give myself a very small snip. I'm glad you're here now too. Thanks for coming. Thank you ever for joining. I think today at one point I had 8 concurrent viewers, which is probably a tie for the most I've had. So thanks everybody for joining. It is greatly appreciated. Alright, where did that go? There it is. Alrighty. And we'll give that a little bend. Alright, so that in. And I think this might be the end of today. I think I'll get it all where I want. Well, I apologize. Yeah, I'm on the West Coast, and that definitely makes time confusing. If anybody thinks, oh, you son of a diddly, it popped out right as I started flowing it. If anybody thinks there's a specific time that works better, or day of the week that works better, I seem to be having a little bit better success on Thursdays than on Saturdays, because I do them Thursday evenings. But, I think that worked. I can flow a little bit more. Solder in this joint. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to do a quick continuity test on that guy, just to make sure I didn't do something silly. There's two types of continuity tests I want to do with this stuff. One is just to make sure the wires are soldered, and the other one is that I don't have accidental continuity to ground on any of these ones added to the board. So, first I touch to ground, and then I touch here. That was one I just did, and here. Okay, no continuity to ground. That's good. So now I want to do a continuity test not from the wire itself, but from the solder lug all the way over to this lug. Good. All right, so that's good. All right. Oh, I do want to do it. Let's do a ground test as well for what I just grounded, which would be this guy. Good ground. And this guy. Good ground. All right, so that's a good sign. Those were all soldered well. Well, you know, it seems to be being 70 is one of those times where you can sit back and enjoy a dunderhead like me going and screwing stuff up and laugh at him on screen. But I myself am creeping up on the big 5-0. Not looking forward to it, but at least I get AARP at that point, right? I used odds and ends for my last build to avoid buying wire. I used green and yellow trail light wire for the filaments. That was tough to work with. I had all colors wire everywhere to use it up. Yeah, I've done some of that kind of stuff too, where I quite often have lots of little bits of lead like this left over after these snip-offs. And when I'm doing small jumpers of things, I'll grab those and use them so I don't have to go and waste more wire. But all right. So right now we've got all the tubes wired in. I've got to finish the wiring of the other side over here on the potentiometers and whatnot. I did some of that live, but also the problem I'm facing that's annoying is that some of this is going to be really hard for me to do because it's at an angle, so I'm going to do that a little bit offline so you guys don't have to watch me fumbling in an angle in a weird way that I can't get to it. So I think I'll call that pretty much good for today. I appreciate everybody coming along. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to hang around just for a little bit longer, just as general Q&A. But if nobody has any questions, I'm going to call that good for today, and we'll shut down the live stream. So I'll give everybody a second to think that I'll turn off this fan now so we don't have to hear it blaring in our ears. Oh, yes, I can. I'll put them as on my Amazon affiliate link. These are the main tips are some flukes that I got on Amazon that I really like. They're good because they have this ability to pop off these parts. So if you're probing around areas that are not dangerous, you have a lot of lead space to do things. But when you're getting into high voltage stuff, you pop these on, and then there's a very small area exposed. And it means that you can kind of reduce the risk of accidentally bridging two gaps and electrocuting yourself or doing damage. And then I also believe, I'm trying to remember if I got these, I might have gotten these on Amazon as well. They're like a nice silicone covered set of leads that also I bought there. So I will look that up and try and see if I can put those in the kind of in the comments section and whatnot. So thanks for that question. Yeah, I now have started buying these spools of NTE wire, and I think I've gotten, some of them I get at a local shop that I buy from here called Vetco Electronics, but I can just walk over and buy them there. But I also can find the same brand NTE on Amazon as well, and I've bought several from Amazon also. So, and new wire does make things a lot easier and a lot nicer. That's one of the things I've actually disliked on this build a lot is this Fender spaghetti wire from the 70s is actually kind of yucky. I do not like it. It's a pain in the butt. It breaks easily. If you bend it a couple of times, it breaks. Well, you know, I guess expected, but so yeah. Thank you everybody for coming out and supporting the channel. I look forward to future builds and having you guys along with. If you have any other build suggestions, please throw them in the comments on the channel or send me an email. Like I said, pdavis at frenchyfilms.com, and I'd be more than happy to look into that stuff as well. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you online with videos soon. And as a sneak peek, I've mentioned before, probably within the next roughly month, my next major build is going to be a Vox-inspired design of my own. And what I'll do with that one likely is I'm going to put the schematics and the layouts on Patreon, since this is a design more of my own. And anybody that wants to kind of see them can just subscribe up and pay, you know, maybe a small amount of money to get to them. Or there's also a Patreon allows you to just pay $1 a month or something like that and become a regular subscriber. I'm going to start trying to use Patreon a bit more to put some of my content up first. So people that are supporting me on Patreon will get access to those first. And then later, I'll be able to, you know, I'll release them more publicly for everyone else afterwards on my website or something to that effect. But so yeah, please do join in to the future videos and tell me any other content that you want. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You guys have a great one. Bye-bye.